Let's switch over to position player, the position player situation. This is where things get pretty interesting. I know you've been playing around with like trying to figure out what the Diamondbacks bench would look like in 2024, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. It's a little bit unclear right now. We'll just sort of go through the names that we know are going to be on the opening day roster. Gabby Moreno behind the plate, Christian Walker, Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, Eugenio Suarez. There's your starting infield. That's 5 guys. And then in the outfield, Corbin Carroll is going to make the team. Alec Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel. Those guys seem like locks. As a ninth player, I guess Jake McCarthy we expect would make the roster as of now. I guess it could be Dominic Fletcher, maybe Jorge Barosa in that spot as well. But one of those speedy outfield types seems like a lock to make the team as well. That puts you at 9 guys. You still don't have a backup catcher. You're going to need that. Maybe Jose Herrera, maybe it's someone else. We don't know. But that gets you to 10. And then as you talked about earlier, you need a backup shortstop. That's also a non-negotiable, whether that's Jordan Lawler, Blaze Alexander, someone else from outside the organization. That's another spot you're going to have.
I think the key there is outside the organization. There's nobody else besides those 2 that are even close to being capable of playing major league shortstop in the system right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with the D-backs moving on from Diego Castillo a few days ago, with the Lourdes Gurriel move, that certainly cut down their options there. So that puts us at 11 position players. We expect the D-backs to open with 13 position players, 13 pitchers on opening day. So you've got 2 spots then, Jack. You have 2 spots for theoretically this external DH type acquisition, which we expect the team to make most likely. And then you also have Jace Peterson, you have Emmanuel Rivera, you have Pavin Smith. How do we make this work? I mean, this is, you basically have 2 spots for theoretically 4 guys out of that group.
The way you make it work is you make a trade.
Yeah.
You're going to have to trade off the MLB roster or the 40-man roster. You're going to have to move 2 or 3 guys. Maybe you can improve. Maybe you get another starter. Maybe you get a top end, relief pitcher, somebody that actually can make some impact. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a Jake McCarthy or a Dominic Fletcher, somebody like that, moved out, or maybe they trade Rivera if they don't think that he's the third baseman of the future, and they have the third baseman of the present, Eugenio Suarez. Maybe some other team will find some value in Rivera, but I think they have to make a trade. They got to do a 2 or 3 for 1 type of move.
Yeah.
And then from there, you bring in your free agent, and it kind of cleans things up a little bit for them.
Yeah.
Or they just leave them all out there as depth, and whoever's got options, they put them down in Reno.
Yeah, I mean, it is, again, it's kind of like this surprising traffic jam situation where there's just not enough room for all these guys. Even after the team traded for Jace Peterson at the trade deadline, traded a decent pitching prospect to the Oakland A's, I don't necessarily think Jace Peterson's role is set in stone in 2024 looking at this list. You imagine he would the team is going to have more patience with him than maybe some of the other guys, but it doesn't seem like that's necessarily a lock either.
Michael reminds us Rivera's out of options, so that really, he's either on the roster or he's going to be traded.
That's a good point. So Rivera's out of options. Jace Peterson, you're not sending down. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And then Pavin Smith, I guess he does have options remaining, right?
It's a mess, Jesse. Would you clean this up?
Yeah,
come on.
I wish I could. That was your job, Jack, to come in here and show us how to clean up this mess.
Above my pay grade.
So yeah, I guess all this to say, this feels like a more crowded roster situation sort of across the board than we're used to seeing in years past, which is a credit to the Diamondbacks. There's more talent here than there's been in the past. There's more major league caliber players than there has been in the past in all facets of the game, in the rotation, in the bullpen, as far as this position player group is concerned. Not to say it's necessarily the best team in the league or anything, but there's a clear difference between the depth that we've seen in years past and the depth that seems to be on this roster heading into 2024.
Mike Hazen talked about that a little bit at the GM meetings.
Yeah.
He talked about, as your team gets better, you got a lot tougher 40-man roster decisions to make, and it gets a little crowded. He went out of his way to praise the Atlanta Braves and how well they've managed their 40-man roster over the years. But that's the key is like, moving the right guys and the right pieces around, because you're going to be giving up some guys of value if you keep exposing them to waivers.
Yeah. So this is just sort of the new reality that the Diamondbacks live in, I guess. And it is very messy. And it feels like some sort of trade is going to happen between now and opening day. Maybe it's not, a huge move. Maybe it's not something significant that really has a big imprint on the opening day roster. But there is just sort of, as you said earlier, just some kind of housekeeping that needs to be done as far as this roster is concerned and sorting through all the various pieces that this team has.